Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to be filming my October wrap up. I've literally been excited to film this video since like mid-month of October. It's not even been about like the type of book I was reading or the amount of books I was reading or anything. I think I'm honestly just getting more excited about reading, which means that I can't wait to see like how much I've read throughout the month and how much I've enjoyed it. And I've also just like started loving talking about it with you guys a lot more. Without further ado, let's just get on to the video. Actually, first of all, I did want to say I cut my hair. Like I cut a lot of it. It was like down here, so it's all gone. I'm really happy with it, but it's like I'm still working out how to style it and everything, so you have to bear with me a little bit on that. But I hope you like it too, although I don't really care. Please. So I read how many books did I actually read? Probably should tally this up before I start the video. I've read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books. No, 6 books in October. Wow, okay. But I DNF'd one of them, so I technically read 5, which is a very good number. I'm very happy with that. So the very first book that I read was a bit of a random one, and you guys have to bear with me a little bit because it's actually a picture storybook, and it's from the Complete Bramley Hedge. But I read Autumn Story, which is the little story about autumn. This basically follows like this community of mice. It's really beautifully illustrated. It's of course like a children's story, but I love it, and I'm like in my mid-20s. This is the sort of illustration style. It's literally stunning. What I've been doing is I have this like entire bind up of the Complete Bramley Hedge, which is like all of these stories in one. They have autumn, winter, spring, summer, and I've read at the points throughout the year, like just before the season begins or in the middle of the season, whatever. So I decided to do the same with Autumn Story. I really loved it. I think my favorite so far is Winter Story, but I still really enjoyed Autumn Story, and I believe I gave it 4 stars. So I would recommend it if that's what you're into, although I don't think I'm going to find the target audience for Bramley Hedge here. But if you are curious, I would recommend them. They're very sweet, very quick reads. I can't really tell you anything about them, they get spoiled like immediately, but yeah, that was that. The second book that I read in October, the second book I finished in October because I've been reading this for a little bit, was The Secret History by Donna, which I know is one that lots of people get very excited about. This book is so tabbed. There are so many tabs here. I just caught up with my annotations because what I've been doing at the moment so that I read a little bit quicker is I've been kind of like penciling it in where I want to annotate something, and then I go back and like do it all. But this took so long to catch up on my annotations for. I was going insane with it because like every single page has multiple annotations on it. Like this has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different colors used on it, which all mean different things. It was like a very intense reading experience. The Secret History is about a group of friends who are all part of like a classics class that their university holds, and it's a very like elite course to get into. They're kind of selected for it by the tutor, who's this man called Julian. You're told at the very beginning of the book, so this isn't a spoiler, that the entire group of friends in this kind of like little society end up killing this boy called Bunny, but you're not told why or how or anything like that. The first like 50% of the book I'd say is like you figuring out why they did it, and then the last 50% of it is kind of trying to see whether they get caught for what they did. It was the thing that kind of like created the dark academia aesthetic. So I really enjoyed the first 50% of it because it was like all this stuff about why they killed Bunny. It would really like heavily leaned into the dark academia aesthetic, which is like this East Coast college intellectual discussions they have in class and stuff. I love those scenes so much, and that was like kind of what like really drew me in and got me hooked with the book at the beginning. But the latter half was kind of just like a cozy mystery, but like not cozy. Lots of kind of like police interviews, psycho like analysis into these kids about how they're feeling about this horrible thing they did, and I enjoyed like aspects of that, but a lot of it was just the mundane kind of police investigation. Because I already knew what happened and how it happened and everything by that point, I did lose interest a little bit. So I found this quite a conflicting book to rate. One side of it, like I can't deny that it is like incredibly well written, but on the other half, like I just didn't love it, and I'm kind of a little bit disappointed with that because I really did think this would probably be like a 5-star read, and I've had no 5-star reads this year, so I'm a little bit triggered by the fact that it wasn't. That's my review of The Secret History. I did give it 4 stars though. I gave it a very good rating, so it was a really good book. It's not like an all-time favorite, and I think I'm gonna have to wait a long time to reread it. It was a lot, like it took a lot from me to read this book. If I'm recommending it to you, I would say like set aside time to read it. It's a sort of book you kind of have to invest your time and your brain into a little bit. So yeah, that was A Secret History. I love this edition though. This is the vintage classics one. Next up, I finished off a Christian non-fiction book that I was reading, and that is Without Rival by Bevere. So I've been reading this for like quite a few months now, and I finally finished it, but it was something that I was kind of dipping into and like reading every so often because I have subheadings in each chapter, and you can obviously read like a little kind of section and then put the book down and like move on with your life and then go back to it like, at a later date. And that's kind of what I had been doing, but I decided I wanted to get it finished. At first when I picked it up, I thought it was about, the way it's advertised, I thought it was about comparison between women particularly, and like how to not do that, and more about how to embrace who you are as an individual, but also celebrate being a woman in terms of like embracing the community of it. I was excited to read about that, and then I feel like a couple of the chapters touched on that, but most of it was just like different topics, which I think the average reader would have found really annoying. Not annoying, but like it didn't fulfill what it set out to do. But I actually really enjoyed it because I feel like the way it veered was actually more of what I needed. Maybe it was God using this book to work in my life and to speak to me about the things that I actually needed to be spoken to about. Nevertheless, I enjoyed it, but I just like, I still am a little bit hesitant in terms of rating, because I'm like, one, my personal enjoyment level was quite high. Story didn't like I said, fulfill what it set out to do. So I gave this, I believe, a 3.5 stars. 3.5 stars, which is like a very positive rating from me. Like I'm quite harsh on my rating, but actually like a 3 means good. So this was like pretty much like a very good book. Just not all the things I've just said it wasn't. If you watched my October TBR, you would know that I was planning what books to take with me on my trip to America. I went to New York for 12 days. I did vlog the entire experience, and I'm quite like proud of the video actually. So if you guys would like to check it out, I'll make sure to have it linked up there and down below, all the places. I was debating between The Beautiful and Damned by F. Scott Fitzgerald and then this time-traveling historical fantasy book set in New York. Both of them are set in New York, but I went with the fantasy mostly because of other people's opinions, which I didn't regret, because I did want to get to this book eventually, because it'd been on my shelf since like 2019. I was like, I need to read the book eventually and figure out how I feel about it. But I think maybe I probably would have enjoyed the Fitzgerald book a little bit more. So the book that I decided to take with me was The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell. Like I said, this is a historical fantasy with time travel aspects of it. It's quite a complicated book to explain. A percentage of the city possesses magic and a percentage of them don't. And in different timelines, magic is legal and magic isn't. In the timeline that it isn't, the citizens with magic possession are kind of trapped within the city. They can get in, but they can't leave. In order to escape, this group of people are trying to go back in time to find objects they could bring together in order to like break this curse or whatever. Basically what happened with this book was I got about 150 pages into it and I was just bored by it, and I was just like, if I'm still bored by a 150 page book, by 150 pages in, and it's like a 400-page book, that's a little bit concerning. So I was just like, I don't think this is worth my time. Plus it's part of like a 4-book series. I think there's a 5th book on the way, and I was just like, it's not gonna happen. So I ended up giving up on this, and I will be selling it. I've listed it on Depop already, so if you're interested, I'll link it down below. It's a really gorgeous US paperback, and I paid full price for it. Well, my mum paid full price for it back in the day. Out of all the books in the bookstore, I chose this one. So I'm very disappointed with the fact that I didn't enjoy it that much, but yeah. People have compared this to Six of Crows though, and I love Six of Crows. And I did kind of start to see the resemblance of this kind of group of friends that felt a little bit like Six of Crows. If you're interested in that, then you might enjoy this book, but I just was not invested enough to read like enough into it. DNF. A little bit of a waste of time, but again, like I said, I wanted to get it off my shelf, so I don't really care. Then after I finished that, I was in New York and I didn't have a book to read. I was like, great, I've loved this book all the way across the Atlantic, I need to DNF it. I hadn't yet made my way to the bookstores, but I did get there eventually, don't worry. Thankfully I was staying with my brother's girlfriend, Tiffany, and she has particularly kind of recently got into reading, has like a decent book collection there. So I borrowed Homebody from her, which is a book by Rupi Kaur. It's her 3rd poetry collection. And I was very excited for her actually, because I've read her previous 2 books, which are Milk and Honey and The Sun and Her Flowers, and on my first reads I didn't enjoy them, but on my second, I've reread both of them, I kind of began to like appreciate Rupi Kaur's writing a little more. And I did actually do a wrap up, which I think now is private, but I might make it public for like a little period of time if you guys want to check that out. I really kind of grew to understand her work, and I appreciated it like for what it was. When you like evaluate her work not through like the lens of like poetry with a capital P, it kind of doesn't compare. And I think that's the problem with this, is that we're trying to compare it to something that it's not trying to be. I did actually grow to like those books. I didn't give them like spectacular ratings, but I mean like 3 out of 5. I thought they were good for what they were meant to be. Homebody on the other hand, I just didn't like, and I was really devastated. It's just, I don't know, let me see what I wrote in my review, because I find this hard to even talk about, because I gave it 2 stars. Like, I was very disappointed with it, and it's so annoying with her books because, like I said, like, I really try to look for the best of them. When I'm like desperately searching and I can't find anything, it's kind of a little bit concerning, and that's why I had to give the book a rating that low. The illustrations in it were really beautiful. They made me think more than the poems did, although having said that, the thing that I did find engaging about the poems was more the concepts that were behind them and less so the actual writing of them and the way they were delivered. Ideas made me think, and I think that's where like I found the value within her work. Yeah, only like 2 stars of value, but still. There were several poems that I took photos of because I obviously don't own the physical copy, and I wanted to keep them and to maybe use them as a little bit of inspiration, because I do write the occasional poem myself. So yeah, that was Homebody. A little bit disappointed in it, like a lot disappointed in it actually, but like in a sad way, not in an angry way. I don't know how I feel about her work. Like, I feel like I want to give her a chance with whatever she's writing next, but it's definitely a mixed bag. I think I go into her collections knowing that like I have to look at them a little bit differently. And then the final book that I read in October was Carrie Soto is Back by Jenkins Reid. I still don't know whether this is Carrie Soto or Carrie Soto. I really don't have a clue. I'm really sorry. I should have done my research. This book is a Jenkins Reid book. I read Daisy Jones and the Six, Seven Husbands of Hugo, and Malibu Rising, all in that order. Of those books, I've given them Daisy Jones 4.5, Evelyn 5, Malibu Rising 5. So she's pretty much like an author by author for me. She is an author by author. I pre-ordered this book, which is why I have this giant card cover. It's actually so annoying, guys. Like, all of her books are different shapes, sizes. I'm like, what is this? Excuse me. They're both UK editions. Like, what is going on? This book, I didn't instantly connect with. A little bit concerned about it, but I was like, honestly, I can give it some time because I'm gonna finish the book because Jenkins Reid and I'm biased towards it. I ended up giving a 4-star rating. So Carrie Soto is Back is about Carrie, who is a tennis player. Has been playing tennis since she was little. She's coached by her father, who was a tennis player like in his own time. Carrie receives an injury and decides to go into retirement after having like a hugely successful career of establishing many records within women's tennis. One day Carrie and her father are at a match and they see this girl called Nikki Chan, and she's a British tennis player, and she is about to break Carrie's title. So what Carrie does is she decides to go out of retirement and she's back. She retrains for the 4 like slams of the year. We kind of watch her train for those games, and then we watch her through those games, and then we also like have a little period of the book where we're kind of back in time and we're watching the early parts of Carrie's career, including like when she was a little girl and her relationship with her father and his influence over tennis and her life and her as an individual and everything like that. This is meant to be, from what people said, Jenkins Reid's saddest book. I actually would rate it probably 3rd in my list of all the books I read in terms of saddest level. So I put Evelyn first, then I put Malibu, and then I put Carrie, and then I put Daisy Jones. But then I think my rating's a little bit unfair on that because I read the sad parts of this book on public transport. I was reading it on my phone and I was on the packed train going to London, and the sad thing happened and I was so like upset by it, but I also couldn't react to it because I was in like a public space, and I also had a full face of makeup on because I was going out for dinner with some friends. So I think that like the sadness extent of this book I couldn't quite like grasp. A lot of the times when I really enjoyed a book, it's because it's quite hard hitting. It means that I'm kind of like forced to confront how I connected with it, and maybe because I didn't like interpret this in the way that like I should have done or read it like I have done with her previous books, I didn't end up enjoying this book quite so much. But I also do think that if you're not a tennis fan, you will not enjoy this book, because I really love tennis. I get so invested in Wimbledon every single year. I think it's such a spectator sport. It's my favorite ever sport to watch, and I felt that like even being such a big fan, I did think that like it almost got like a little bit too tennisy. So I think if you didn't enjoy tennis, this wouldn't be the book for you, because so much of Carrie's identity is caught up in the game that she plays. Because not only as a tennis player is it like her career, it's also like it just ends up being her life, because it invades all of her time and all of her relationships and everything like that. The reason why there's a bookmark in here, by the way, is because I'm catching up on my annotations, and that's where I'm up to. What I did appreciate though is that usually when I'm watching tennis, I will be watching the men's tennis, and I drop in for like the big women's games. I felt like I had like a lot more appreciation for women's tennis, which is super cool. I'm really glad that Jenkins Reid wrote this about a female player. So those are my thoughts about Carrie Soto. It's a little bit confusing, but I get 4 stars. I thought it was a really good book, but I don't think it was anything more than that. And I'm slightly disappointed in it, but like I'm happy with what it was. I just was kind of expecting more, but only because she's Jenkins Reid. If a different author had written this, then I think I would have like had a little bit more time for this. So those are all the books I read in October. While I look forward to these videos, I also am like very aware of how uneloquent I am. That's not even a word, but like I'm not very eloquent at all. I think that like when the camera's in front of me I kind of panic and then I just get it out of control, you know. So hopefully this made some sort of sense. If you guys did enjoy it, please make sure to give it a thumbs up so I wasn't just rambling away incoherently. I'm back now and I will be posting videos at least once a weekly, perhaps twice. So you guys want to stick around and make sure to subscribe. But thank you so much for watching this video and I'll see you guys next time for another one. Bye.